Michigan's rock station. Q106.
It's Bill Morrison.
Hey,
How's it going there, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful, Bill. We are so stoked that you are coming back to Capital City Comic-Con in the thriving metropolis of Lansing. You being a native of Linkin Park, you've been to Lansing before. We've actually had you on the show before here, man. So, yeah, it's great to have you back on again.
It's great to be back. Thank you, Terry.
So I have to ask, being from Linkin Park, Michigan, are you also a fan of the band Linkin Park, or are they just not in your wheelhouse?
I always thought it was kind of a novelty when when I started hearing their name, and I would jokingly use that with the kids, with the younger fans of
The
that
youth.
band. I would tell them, "Oh yeah, I used to be in Linkin Park."
I love it. I
And
love it.
unless they were from Chicago, they wouldn't, or from here, they wouldn't have any other point of reference other than the band.
Right, a very niche audience for that bit. So sometimes that's just how it shakes out, man. Now, Bill, like I said, we've had you on the show before. So, fam, if you want to find out about Bill's favorite Simpsons and Futurama characters to draw, and just as a fan, go listen to the interview we did a couple of years back. So, Bill, I got a whole new roster of questions for you, man. I did some deep dive into your bio, into your history, and I didn't know that you're an Eagle Scout.
I am. That's right.
That's huge, man. Like one of my coworkers, his kids are like all Eagle Scouts. I'm like, what kind of high achieving, high octane family do you have going on there? I work with you, pal. Like you're a mess at work, but his kids are doing amazing. So tell us how being an Eagle Scout really, how did that inform your artistic career?
Well, I never really thought it had much influence on my art career, other than I took the art merit badge. Um, and I remember having to design something. Like, one of the qualifications was you have to design something useful.
Hmm.
And I designed a toothbrush that um, had holes under the bristles, and the handle was hollow, and you could screw a tube of toothpaste into the handle and then just squeeze the paste up through the handle, and it would come out onto the brush.
With
So,
the advent of 3D printing, where's the prototype, man?
well, even though it was kind of a clever design, even then, I think I was like, I don't know, 12 years old. I realized, how do you keep the toothpaste that's in the tube that doesn't make it to the bristles? How do you keep that from getting all crusty and
Yeah.
clogged up? So, yeah, it's not foolproof. That's probably why nobody's ever marketed
Very,
come up
very
with that
true.
idea
Very
as long
true.
as it is.
It's still in concept. It's still workshopping that one.
However, once I started drawing The Simpsons and became a writer, I used the way that I got into scouting as the basis for one of my Simpsons stories.
Really?
I
Okay.
did, yeah. And the way it happened was, we had a scout recruiter come to the school, and we had an assembly just for all the boys who were scouting age. This was elementary school, and this guy got us all fired up. He was like a scout executive from the Detroit Area Council, and he was really good at his job. So by the end of the meeting, we were all ready to start a troop at Mixter Elementary School. And the last question that he asked was, "Okay, well, it sounds like you guys want to start a troop. So do any of you have a father who you think would like to be the scoutmaster?" And my hand shot up. I was like, "Yeah, my dad will do it. Uh,
Mm,
I would
you
love
got
to have my dad."
voluntold.
Yeah. So, and my dad did. He became our scoutmaster. But when I was trying to come up with ideas for Simpson stories early in my, like, the writing phase of my career, I didn't really know how to come up with stories yet. And so I took ideas from my childhood. I just thought about funny things that happened to me as a kid that I could turn into stories about Bart.
Hmm.
And so one of them was that story of starting a scout troop. And I realized that, unlike me, Bart would not want Homer to be the scoutmaster. So I had to come up with a way for that to happen that was accidental. And so what I came up with was at the beginning of the story, they're in class, they're in Mrs. Krabappel's class. All the kids are playing with an ant farm, and Bart accidentally leaves the top off of the ant farm when the assembly starts, when this guy comes in to do his pitch, and he's got a chocolate bar in his back pocket. So through the course of the pitch from the scout guy, this trail of ants climbs out of the ant farm onto the floor, up the leg of Bart's chair, and into his back pocket. So at the exact right moment, when the guy says, "Do any of you have a father who would like to be scoutmaster?" Bart jumps up out of his chair screaming, and the guy takes that as a volunteer. But in
Oh,
actuality,
yeah.
it's just Bart being bitten in the butt
I
by
love it. That's old school slapsticky comedy. I'm super here for that. Super here for that. I love that, man. Now, one of your other works, that you're responsible for a couple of other pretty iconic works, not just in the Simpsons verse, but also in the in music media. You did the cover for the Simpsons Yellow album, the musical piece, very Beatles inspired. It was a takeoff
right.
on the old Sergeant Pepper thing. And then you also did Titan Comics Yellow Submarine hardcover. Gotta know, Billy, you a big Beatles fan.
Huge Beatles fan. I grew up in a household of Beatle freaks. My brother and my two older sisters were always playing Beatles music. So as a kid, I just heard it all the time. I admit I was maybe more of a Monkees fan back then
You know
at that
what?
age.
Let's put some respect on the Monkees name, okay? The
Yeah.
Monkees are very responsible for, they were very formative in my sense of humor. It was like Monty Python with catchy songs,
Yeah.
very absurdist.
Yeah. And I was tuned in every week. I had pictures from Tiger Beat and 16 magazine posted on my wall of the Monkees. I had all the trading cards. I had the little Matchbox car, all that stuff. And but anyway, my first album though that I ever owned was kind of a Beatles album.
Mhm.
It was Alvin and the Chipmunks sing the Beatles hit. So I was a Beatles fan. I mean, I saw them on Ed Sullivan. I remember sitting on the floor uh, when my brother and sisters tuned that in. So I was there for that. I saw A Hard Day's Night when it first ran at a drive-in. So yeah, so by the time I was a teenager, there was like a resurgence of Beatlemania.
Oh,
So there was a Broadway show, and they started putting out all these collections on LPs. The Beatles had broken up, but they had rock and roll music, and they had all these LP collections of hits. So I became, I had kind of like the second wave of uh, interest in the Beatles. You know, liked them as a kid, but then really liked them as a teenager. So that stuck with me. I mean, that really stayed. And when I got asked to do, well, first I did the Simpsons Yellow album, so that was a kick. That was designed by Steve Vance. Steve Vance did the concept work on that, but I did do the illustration. That was fun. But then doing the graphic novel adaptation of Yellow Submarine, that was amazing. I mean, that's one of those pinch me moments,
right.
that you never think that's going to happen to you, that somebody's going to ask you to do something that's an actual Beatles project. It's sanctioned by the Beatles. I'm sure they looked at it, they had to approve it.
Right, right. I mean, yeah, that's an iconic brand and band. I mean, they don't put out just any old thing, man. That's
Right.
a pretty cool sanction of your work, man. It really is. That's dope as hell.
Yeah, that was a real milestone for me.
Uh, of the four Beatles, if you could travel back in time and hang out with one of them for a day, who would you want to hang out with the most out of John, Paul, George, and Ringo?
George has always been my favorite. And I think it's because I'm kind of the most like him.
Hmm.
I have a real dry sense of humor when I'm around people. So George would always, be kind of quiet, but then he would open his mouth and this, you know, very very stone faced but very funny comment would come out, and he was just really witty. I love that about him. He was also very spiritual, which I am, and so I guess I've always kind of identified with him because of those things.
It's funny. I pitched that same question to AEW and former WWE wrestler and frontman for the band Fozzy, Chris Jericho. He also said George Harrison, and he was like, he seems like he'd be the most interesting to hang out with. You know what I mean? He's hanging
Yeah,
out in the room. He's not, he doesn't have the rock star energy of some of the other cats in the band, but he seems like he'd be the most. He struck him as the most introspective, and I feel that energy for sure.
yeah, and I feel like just from documentaries and books and things, he was the one that early on was the least affected by fame.
Right.
You know, you got the idea that if the Beatles ended in 66, as early as that, he would have been like, okay,
Yeah, he would have. He was
I'll find something else.
he was used to getting his ideas iced out of the recording sessions half the time anyway. He's like, "Nah, I'll
Right.
do my own thing. You guys have been kind of mean to me. Fine. Where's my sitar?"
Exactly.
Shoot. So Bill, what is your go-to Beatles jam, man? What's the first one that comes to mind?
The one that I always turn up whenever it comes on, because I listen to Sirius XM, the Beatles channel, is Hey Bulldog,
Okay.
which is a weird choice. I know, but I heard it a lot when I was working on the graphic novel because it's in the film, and I was constantly listening to music from the film while I was working on the comic, and um, it's one of those. I don't know. It's just one of those songs that to them was kind of a throwaway, I think.
Mhm.
Um, because they said, well, we'll we'll do four songs for the film, and we've got these lying around that we haven't put on albums, and that was one of them. So, but it's great. It's just got so much energy. I love the rhythmic piano. I've always been a real fan of rhythmic, like chord uh, centric piano. If you listen to Todd Rundgren,
Oh yeah. Okay.
there's a lot of just like kind of uh, banging on chords, not a lot of finger work.
More of a percussion instrument than than the
Yeah,
main melody. Yeah, for sure.
right. So I've always been a fan of that, and Hey Bulldog has that. It just got. It sounds like they're having a blast. It's like kind of the Beatles, um, just in one of those rare studio moments. Well, I don't know how rare, but in one of those studio moments where they're digging what each other is doing, they're laughing, they're having fun, they're not worried about decorum. They're screaming and laughing, and it's just it's kind of infectious.
Hmm.
So that's the one. I mean, that's a hard question with the Beatles because
That's like trying to pick your favorite kid, right?
right, there's just so many, and sometimes it depends on the mood you're in.
Right, right. I people ask me all the time, "Hey, dude, what's your favorite metal band?" I'm like, I have a relatively consistent top 10, but even that's a crapshoot half the time. Like today, it might be Gojira. Tomorrow, it might be Sleep Token. It's
Yeah,
impossible to pick.
it
So,
is.
as far as fictional beverages go, in the universes in which you've worked, what would you be more inclined to take a sip of? Would it be Slurm, Buzz, or Duff?
Well, given where Slurm comes from,
I didn't think
and
I wasn't sure if that would be the pick.
yeah, that's not the pick. And also the fact that it's instantly addictive. I mean, that's their slogan. It's highly addictive. That's what they're leading with. So given that and the fact that it rots your teeth out pretty quickly, I'm gonna eliminate Slurm. I'm not a big beer drinker, so I guess I'm gonna go with Buzz.
Buzz
Just
Cola.
because,
Probably
yeah,
not a whole lot better for your teeth.
no, but it's obviously loaded with caffeine, and I'm a coffee drinker, so it's got that high caffeine energy that I like.
There you go. So either maybe a diet buzz or buzz local, buzz
Yeah.
zero. We got to figure
Buzz
out buzz
Zero.
zero.
Yeah. It's
It's
got an extra Z.
exactly, and it helps you skip the Z's because it's highly caffeinated. And
Right.
barring that, I mean, I guess if they ever came out with Tamako juice, maybe that would be maybe that. Oh, I don't know about that note. You'd have to have a really strong mixer to overcome that.
Yeah. Have you thought of any others?
I'm
That's a pretty good list.
I those were the three that came to mind. I'm not as well versed. I think at Disenchanted they just drink mead all
Yeah.
the time.
Oh, how about Malk?
Oh, that's right. that's that's a hard pass for me. I got some lactose issues. We're not doing that. Good Lord. So Bill, I got one more question for you, man. Before I turn you loose upon the comic fandom world here, you did a little bit of time with Mad Magazine, man. So
Yeah.
yeah, so as a guy who's been immersed in this world of art and comedy for a while, what impact did Mad have on you as a kid?
Oh my gosh. I mean, like most American boys, ages 11 to 16, I think, was our demographic. Um, it was huge. I mean, I discovered Mad, um, I think when I was about 11 or 12. And uh, the interesting thing about Mad to me was there were things in it that I instantly got. There was like the slapstick Don Martin
Hmm.
cartoons and Sergio Aragonis and um, the lighter side. I got most of that. Um, but then there, like the first issue I ever had that I owned, I mean, I'd seen other issues that friends had, but the first one I actually owned had a movie parody of Bob and Carol, Ted and Alice,
Okay.
which was an R-rated movie about two couples swapping. And the cover has all four of them in bed with Alfred. And then when you get to the article, the splash page is like a swingers party that has drawn by Mort Drucker, and it's like all these naked people, but it's like the Austin Powers gag. There's like stuff strategically covering,
Right.
all the bits that we couldn't see. And I remember reading it. I didn't get most of it, but I remember I liked it enough that I aspired to get it. Like I remember thinking someday I'm going to understand this and it's going to be so much better. So that was the thing about Mad. Like there was enough in it for me as a kid to enjoy and that I found funny and laughed at and understood. But then there was stuff about the Vietnam War and stuff about drug use and like satire, kind of like hard biting satire that I knew wasn't for me. I knew it was for college kids. But I remember thinking someday I'm going to be old enough to get this.
Right.
And then this magazine is going to be incredible.
And then you ended up having a gig there for a hot minute, man. So many cool
Yeah,
like, full circle moments for you with the Beatles gig, with the Mad gig. Yeah, it's a pretty cool life, man. You gotta be a guy who's got a lot of gratitude for sure.
I do. I've been very fortunate, very blessed to basically the things that I've been involved with. Disney, because I did, a ton of Disney posters, Mad Magazine, The Simpsons, the Beatles. These are some of the most well known, best loved properties in the universe, and they're known all over the world. So when I go someplace, do I go to any state in the union or another country, I have instant friends because they, especially if I'm there for a convention or a signing tour, they know what I've done, what I've been involved with, and it's like an instant foot in the door with people. People automatically want to talk to you, they're friendly to you. And that's so great. It's so wonderful just to have that. It eliminates all the awkwardness of meeting people.
Yeah.
There's like an instant connection with people because all the things that they love, that they've grown up with, or that they're current fans of. Um, for the most part, of things I worked on, so we have an instant connection.
As a fellow introverted extrovert, man, it's nice to have those icebreakers there for
It
sure.
is. It really is. I can, as oftentimes I'm pretty gregarious, even though I identify with George, the quiet Beatle. Um, but I can have social anxiety at times, just like a lot of people. And to have that instant icebreaker is really, um, it's a blessing.
Yeah, for sure, man. And you've clearly made one hell of a career out of it. Bill Morrison, catch him at Capital City Comic Con, coming your way at the Lansing Center. Win tickets to it on a Capital City Comic Con ticket tour with Michigan's rock station Q106. And Bill, we look forward to seeing you at the Lansing Center, man. You were an absolute blast the last time. We had such a fun panel with you, and the Rick and Morty comic guy was cool hearing you guys talk about your respective franchises and crafts. Those are the sort of dope experience you get at cons like this. And we appreciate you being a part of this one again, man.
Yeah, that was great fun, and I'm really looking forward to this one. Love going up to Lansing and meeting all the fans up there, and it's a great show. It's one of the better Comic Cons that I've been to. It's a lot of fun.
Hell yeah. Bill, thank you so much for your time today, man. Be safe, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Take care, man.
See you then. Thanks, Terry.
Michigan's rock station. Q106.